Hello and welcome back to the Health and Harmony Goals podcast. I hope you guys are all fabulous. Today we have another incredible guest, Christine, and she is an NLP mindset coach, medium, and energy healer for women that struggle being highly sensitive and want to master their energy and emotions. So welcome to the podcast. It is Christine, hey?
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So if you can just explain to the people listening who you are, what you do, so they can get a better idea of who you are.
Absolutely. So I have been working now for about 9 years in this field, and it all kind of started after my second child, when I was diagnosed with postnatal depression. I'll just start with the story before I tell you a little bit about where this kind of is at the moment. I was diagnosed with postnatal depression, and I had a very traumatic event that happened when my son was 3 weeks old. And so that triggered severe anxiety for me. And I pretty much had a really big meltdown, had no idea what was happening, and went to see a psychologist, which was so great for me at the time. So I saw her for about a year. 6 months into it, she suggested that I look into becoming a life coach. And I had never even heard I'd never heard of a life coach, had no idea what that was. I would go to her with all of this homework that she had never given me. I was deep diving into personal development, as we do. And I started looking at different courses and what that might look like becoming a life coach. And I guess no one really tells you at the beginning what that journey looks like, and that, marketing and business is a big part of that as well. You just kind of think, I just remember thinking, oh, this would be great. Well, I'll just do the diploma and I'll start coaching people, and it will just be like that. And that was not the case. But what was beautiful about the journey was that I did so much of my own healing with the psychologist, and then with all of the modalities, because I learned NLP and I learned matrix therapies and all of this beautiful combination of coaching and reprogramming the subconscious mind and healing through these modalities took me from this place of feeling really broken and not knowing who I was to fully standing in my truth and learning more about who I am each and every day, and knowing that it's not really a destination per se. It's almost like at the core of who we are is love. And yes, that kind of feels like the stability within it all, but we're continuously shedding and growing and evolving. And I just became obsessed with the journey. And so I started coaching other people. I actually, I contacted, because I'd signed up for all these courses, marketing courses. You can build this webinar and automate your entire business around this one webinar, and it's going to make you $1 million, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, oh, well, that sounds good. I just have to create this one thing, and that didn't work. And so my husband, I remember him saying something to me like, why don't you have a look at other businesses and see if you can jump into another business and work for a coach and just see what it's like inside of a successful coaching business. So I did that, and that was just a whole journey in itself. And from there, it just really evolved. So I worked with her, and then I met a new mentor who that journey felt like it ended, and I learned this new energy healing modality called soul psychology. And so I kind of worked my way up through that business and started training practitioners globally online to also learn how to become a practitioner in that particular modality. And then I got to this place where I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this for myself. I really want to start my own business, and I really want to help people in a way. I want my voice to come out. I don't want to be kind of not really contained, it's not the right word, but I just wanted to have my own soul expression of my business and what I wanted to put out there in the world, so that I could attract really soul aligned clients. And then that's a whole nother story there. But does that give you a bit of an idea?
Yes, definitely. I love your journey because it resonates so hard with me. I feel like, because obviously I'm also in like the life coaching industry, and I think it's such a journey, a self-discovery journey for yourself in learning. Like, I also signed up for a life coach course and thought, once I've done that, I'll be a life coach. But it was so much more than that. And it's niching down and finding like the niche that you want to serve, and learning more about that, and learning more about different things as you learn about that, and niching into something new. And like, it's a whole like long process. Like you said, there is no destination, it's just the journey. So I love that. But I wanted to ask, you said soul psychology. How is, obviously is this something that you specialize in now? And if so, how did you come to find out about it? Just take us on that journey a little bit.
Sure. So I met another life coach, another student in a life coaching college that I studied with. And we became really good friends, and we were coaching with each other. But then she became my mentor. See, I didn't really know much about spirituality because I'd grown up in the Catholic Church and never really identified with it ever. Like throughout it just didn't feel like it was for me. So I almost feel like she was my spiritual mother. And she just taught me about the universal laws, and that, there's not this big man in the sky that is out there to punish me. And I learned this whole new, I gained this whole new awareness of what life could be like in a positive light. Like, yes, we're going to go through challenges, and yes, we're going to meet obstacles, and yes, we're going to have to dive into our shadows and do all of that work. And that can be really challenging and really dark. But coming out of that, that can actually be a really beautiful process when you start to gain trust after experiencing it a couple of times, and coming out the other end and just feeling it's like your heart opens each and every time. So she, her name is Lou. She created this modality, soul psychology. And initially she just said to me, why don't you come along? It's a year. And I had to drive. It was like an hour and a bit drive every month for the weekend. And I loved it because I was getting away from the kids. I was having me time. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it for myself. That was my intention. And then my life started changing. I went from having all of these physical conditions like PCOS. I had cysts rupturing inside of my ovaries almost monthly. I was hospitalized. The doctors pretty much told me that if I wanted it to stop, I needed to get a hysterectomy. And I was so young, and I always, when it got to that point and the doctor told me there was nothing I could do, I was like, the rebel in me would come out, and I'd be like, I'm not accepting that as an answer. That's not okay with me. You can't tell me that that is the only solution, or I just have to live with it. So the combination of using this modality for the energy healing and the soul psychology aspect of it, along with acupuncture, I took a really holistic approach. Along with like coaching, I went to see an integrative practitioner who did all these tests and gave me some herbs. And then all of a sudden, I've never had a cyst rupture since. It's been years. So this was happening every single month. So that for me was a big, what is this? Like, this is insane. And the shifts that were happening in my relationship with my husband, we were in a really rocky place at that point. Within 6 months, it was like a completely different relationship. And it really has been amazing ever since. I don't normally talk about it, but my gratitude is there each and every day. Everything just started falling into place. So I learned that modality. Is that where you wanted me to go with that? Is that what you're asking with the soul psychology? yeah, so it was like my own healing journey. And then after a year of going through it myself and learning it and seeing the shifts physically, emotionally, spiritually, I thought, I'm going to start using this. So when I was working with this other coaching company and I was coaching, I said to my mentor and my boss, are you okay with me trying out this new modality inside of the coaching calls? And she said to me, oh, sure, no worries, go for it. And the clients were loving it. They were like, I don't know what's happening, but things were just changing. And because it's like inside of the modality, it's almost like we're unpacking the unconscious strategy. If you think of NLP terms, this unconscious strategy, the subconscious strategy of what's happening that's locking the behavior that is not ideal in place, and you're clearing that core emotion from wherever it is in the body. And the way that people were connecting to what was coming up while I was in the sessions, they were either feeling, some people were seeing images in their mind, seeing memories and connecting what I was saying. They were feel like having really strong emotions, because I work with a lot of empaths, like highly sensitive people. So I found that part really fun, because they feel so intensely. Like I'm an empath too, so I feel really intensely. And yeah, that took me on that journey, which then unlocked the mediumship. So what was happening there was I remember being in a session and feeling this lady's grandmother standing in my room, and I could almost, so I can't say that I could see her, but I could see the energy. And if you asked me what she looked like, I could explain to you what she looked like, but it's not objective. It's more in my mind, but I could feel the energy. And so that took me on another journey for a year of understanding what was happening there, and then developing the evidential mediumship. So that's the next progression of where that took me.
That's incredible. So from what you've explained, well, the little bit you explained about the soul psychology, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it sounds like just basically deep inner work to release like traits and behaviors that are not serving you. Can you explain to us a little bit more about this modality? I'm super interested just to hear more. It sounds
Sure. So I'm going to explain it as best I can, because for me, every tool that I learn, I'm not the kind of person, I used to be the kind of person that had to understand everything before I used it. And I would do so much research, but it would stop me from actually using the modality or using the thing, because I needed to know everything before I tried it, because in case I got it wrong. And that whole perfectionism, high achieving part of me would stop me from actually doing anything with it. So letting go of that has allowed me to learn the thing, not need to understand it, and then just put it straight into practice. So I'm going to explain it as best as I can. Okay. So I pretty much have this massive folder, and I use kinesiology. So I muscle test to get information. So we'll set an intention together, and the intention might be, we'll talk about what you're experiencing. So you might say, well, I'm really struggling in my relationship, for example, or my physical health. Or I had a lady who, oh no, that's a different psychology. That's a different modality. Anyway, so we set an intention. What is it that you want to experience instead? Like, what ideally do you want to be happening instead? And then I will start to muscle test what we call the process story in this modality. And so I might get something that says, okay, so this is telling me that you are, feeling unable to, what's an example? I'm completely blocked now. So I might test something that says something like, all right, so when you think about this intention, you lack enthusiasm. And then I might read this entire paragraph, or I might read a couple of sentences, and I'll say to them, okay, so what do you resonate with there? And they might say to me, it's usually that's like you just read me like a book. And then we will deep dive into that. So that's where the coaching starts. Okay, so what's happening here? What's the belief system here? What are you identifying with? Like, who are you being when you are in that behavior? And then we really unpack that. And I keep doing the muscle testing and go through that process. And then we will connect with, all right, so what's the core emotion? What's the emotion that is locking this story in place? And a lot of the time, the way that clients explain that to me is it's almost like they say to me, it's almost like you are putting language to what I've never been able to explain before. Because sometimes they're connecting to things that are a past life, or it's not even something in this life, but they feel it so strongly in their body. And then from there, I might pick up another modality like timeline therapy or do a past life healing, and they'll go wherever they need to go. So it's not like I say, we're going to do a past life healing. It doesn't work like that. It's more like, let's just tap into the energy that is happening in your body and let's allow it to go, your unconscious mind to take you wherever it needs to go. And then we'll go wherever we need to go and heal from there. And then at the end, so we talk about how it manifests. And then we use sacred symbols, we use rays, different things, different tools to do the energy clearing at the end. So I'll do an energy clearing at the end, and then they go about their business and come back, and all these miracles have happened pretty much.
This is literally blowing my mind. I feel like there's one step, which is being a life coach, which is fabulous. Like, I've been to a life coach when I was younger, when I was at school, and it was one of the best things that I ever did. But I feel like having those skills that you have now and being able to tap into information that people don't actually even know is there is something completely different and so much deeper, because a lot of us don't realize what's actually going on deep down inside. Like, it's all surface level issues. And when you have to just go and like speak about your feelings, it's easy to speak about stuff that's on the surface and you don't actually know what's going on underneath. And for you to be able to like bring that out in the physical, I think people really struggle to believe in energy, but this is like another level of just being able to believe in it even more.
This is like, I pinch myself every time I do a session. I'm like, it's like I'm almost saying, is this real? Like every day, is this real? Is this real? Especially with the mediumship, like when that started happening, I was like, how is this possible? Like, how am I speaking? I could hear them. Like, I can hear them. And when I started calling other mediums to just understand what was happening. And what they said to me is, you must be doing, because of all the energy work that you're doing with the soul psychology, it's like you've raised your vibration up. It's like you've lifted your frequency, like you're vibrating at this frequency. And apparently that's, so what spirit does when they come down to communicate is it's almost an effort for them too. So I'm raising my frequency and I'm like opening my channel, my chakras. This is what I learned afterwards. I didn't know this was happening at the time, but now I have a bit more understanding of what's actually happening. And so I raise my frequency and they come down to meet me, and then I can like hear them, see them, feel them. And then that took me on another journey, which if you want, we can dive into the next modality. But this is, I trust that this is the last modality that I need to add to my toolkit, because now it's starting to get really confusing.
Yeah.
I love how you explain the frequency thing. Like, you raise your vibration, and that's how like spirits can almost see you like an antenna sticking out from a lot of the rest of the people whose frequency isn't that high and won't be able to communicate. So let's dive into this mediumship story of yours. I'm super interested, especially because I'm so fascinated by people who are clairsentient, clairaudient, clair whatever it may be. So it'd be super interesting to hear your story, because I know I've been told that I have like healing power with my hands, and that's something I really want to dig a little bit more into. So it'd be interesting to hear your story, because I feel like so many people have I don't want to call it a skill or a talent, but the gift of being able to communicate or hear or sense or whatever it may be, but they don't really know how to unlock that. So I don't know if that could be something you could explain from your experience and your journey, but just go along with your journey. I'm super interested to hear about it.
Absolutely. You know, when you were saying that, I had spirit bumps all over my body, because that was what I was told to initially, that I had healing abilities and it had something to do with my hands. And I always knew that from a kid. I knew that I was supposed to do something with my hands, didn't quite know what it was. Still haven't quite got there, but it's okay. It's like all unpacking. So the mediumship journey, where do I start? Well, here's how we all have this ability. First of all, we do all have the ability. I do believe that some people have more of a natural ability. It comes really easily to them, and it's almost like part of their purpose, if that makes sense. That's how I feel like it, because I mean, maybe subconsciously or at a soul level I asked for it, but I know at a conscious level it was not something that I was looking for. I feel like it was almost something that happened to me, or happened, I guess, with me.
For you.
After I learned. That's the right term. So we all have this ability, is what I understand now, and we can develop it. And how it first started for me was that I don't often talk about this experience, but I feel like this is probably a great time to share it because it's coming up really strongly inside of my chest. So I never wanted to believe that there were maybe spirits that needed help, or spirits that wanted to come in. That to me was like, I've been scared of ghosts my entire life. I've like nightmares. I can't watch scary movies. I can't do any of that stuff. So I remember lying in bed and feeling this little boy. And I remember not being scared. My husband was lying next to me and it was dark. And I was kind of like opening my eyes, feeling the energy, closing my eyes, asking it to go away, opening my eyes again and still feeling it there. And then he started talking to me, and I could tell that he was distressed, and it was almost like, not almost, it was, he was saying to me, I just want someone to hear me before I cross. And I was really open to it because I'd used a couple of different processes, and so that this was happening. And then on the other side of me, it was almost like someone was saying to me, this is what you need to do. This is the process that you need to use. So I started using this process with this young boy, and he showed me the accident that he died in. He was in a car accident with his mum, and she survived and he passed away. So he just wanted to show me what happened and talk to me about what happened and tell me that he knows that it wasn't his fault. And then I saw this light open, and him just like, it's like an angel came. That's what it felt like. It felt like an angel came and just took him across. That was all he needed. He just needed to be heard. Later on, after a lot of channeling and these kind of sessions, I realized that there are people here. So I reframed it to see that it's not a scary thing, that there are people here that is their sole purpose on earth, that if someone, they can find us. It's not like they're stuck and they have nowhere to go. It's just they could use a little bit of help. And that's my experience. I mean, that might really cross some people's belief systems, and I get that because I would be one of those people if I hadn't experienced it firsthand. And so that was one thing. And I had no idea what was happening. And I remember sitting after that happened, I thought, whoa, like, who am I ever going to talk to about this? Like, this is like a whole other level. Who is even going to believe me? Like, this is wacky. And part of me is like, oh, maybe I'm making this up. And I was really doubting it. And so the next day I was in a meditation, and a daily spiritual practice is how you awaken your intuition and how you develop your abilities 100%. And I'll remind me to tell you how that happens after I took someone through a 3-month intensive who completely opened up her mediumship. So the next day in my meditation, I heard reach out to Rachel. And there was only one Rachel I knew who was a client. The other one I knew had changed her name, and I had not really a connection with her at all. But then it was very clear that I was supposed to reach out to her, and I thought, this is weird. Like, how am I going to reach out to her? And a week before that, I was reading an article that she'd read that was like published in a newspaper or a magazine or something, where she was talking about something very similar about what happened to me. And I stopped reading it almost a paragraph through because it scared me. So I stopped reading it. And then I kind of put two and two together and thought, okay, well, I'm going to connect with her. So I connected with her. We got on the phone. She eventually we started coaching with each other. And she helped me unlock my mediumship, because my intention was to unlock it in a really safe way. I wanted to be only doing light work. Like, I did not want to, when I say that, I am not interested in, this was where I was, not interested in aliens, not interested in the scary stuff. It felt scary to me. Mm-hmm. I want to just be of the light. Like, I want to work with the light while I'm doing this, whatever that looks like. And so she helped me really go through this journey, and I did some other work with some other people, and then it just started happening in my sessions. So I would always ask permission. I would feel the spirit, the soul, and I would say, okay, so someone's here, I have a message for you, would you be open to hearing it? And I always got a yes. And then a lot of the time they'd tell me names, like they'd tell me their names, they'd tell me things about them. So I learned that that's called evidential medium. That's where I'm giving someone 5 pieces of evidence so that they know that the person I'm talking to is the person that I'm talking to. And it's things that I wouldn't know. Like, I'm not going to know the person that they've lost. I don't know their name. I don't know their brother's name. I don't know any of that. So they're telling me things that maybe like a memory, that is something they hold really sacred to them. And I would share that with them. Not something they wouldn't want me to know, but just something that they know, okay, yeah, that's my dad, or yeah, that's my grandma, that's my sister. And that's how that unlocked.
Incredible. I think so many people, like you said, everyone has these gifts within themselves. It's just a matter of connecting and raising your vibration and doing the work and just being open to it. But I love that, like, I don't love it, but I love that you mentioned how you were scared of this gift in the beginning, because I think a lot of things like we watch on TV and we hear from like old wives' tales and like scary myths or whatever it may be, like really scare us away from delving into these kind of gifts, because we've been spun this whole story that like poltergeists and hauntings and like weird, crazy things. So I love that was one of your fears and that you managed to overcome it, because I think a lot of people these days stay away from the more like woo-woo side of things because of the way like patriarchy and the world has made it seem like it's evil, it's bad, all of that stuff. So thanks for sharing that. I know you wanted to go a little bit into the daily spiritual routine that you had with your client for your 3-month intensive. I think that would be super interesting to delve into, because I know we love our daily routines, and I've also seen a huge benefit from the things that I do, but it'd be very interesting to hear from your perspective and how it worked for one of your clients.
Sure. So I think I really wanted to, when I was sitting and thinking, well, what am I going to share in today's podcast when I talk to you two? And one of the things was, we're taught as coaches or in this kind of industry that it's important to niche and to know who your client avatar is, and just to get your messaging really tight, really, clear, so you can attract that soul client, you can attract that ideal client. And I have found that there's a real balance with that is very important to have. And I definitely give so much credit to my daily spiritual practice, which has really allowed me to receive guidance around the business and where to take that. So I think that if I had limited myself and limited who I was speaking to, I knew that I wanted to speak to people that are highly emotional, that are highly sensitive, that feel really, really deeply and feel really, really intensely, and they're overwhelmed by that. Now, a lot of marketing coaches will tell you that that's not tangible. People don't connect to the tangible. But here's the thing, I started realizing that my old me, in every level of awareness before I got to a new level of awareness, is my soul client. I'm speaking to me before my evolution. And then I'm speaking to me again before that evolution, before the last evolution happened. And so when I realized that, I was really able to speak to people at a different level. I was really able to speak to their soul. And so what that allowed me is to not limit myself, because it allowed me to speak my truth. It allowed me to speak from my soul, from my heart, and through all that was coming through in my daily practice, which is meditation and journaling, and sometimes channeling. It changes every time. It changes often. And I had this one, it's not the first time it's happened, but this particular experience really stood out to me. So I had this one lady reach out to me and say, I know that I'm a medium. Like, there's something inside me, but I'm really scared of it. I have so many things that I know I need to heal. Do you think that you can help me become a medium? And I was like, what? Like, first of all, I have only just unlocked this. And so I meditated with her. I said, just let me sit with it and let me get back to you. And then I got back to her and said, listen, I've had no experience coaching a client through this. I've had no experience. I've had heaps of experience doing the healing work and the subconscious work, and I've done it with myself. I needed to clear all of my fear around spirit to be able to open up, and even to be able to open up and trust my own intuition. I had to clear the fear that I'm going to have negative voices, and what if I'm mistaken, what if I'm unable to discern the ego voice from the intuition voice, and listen to the wrong voice, and that takes me on a new journey. Like, there's all these different milestones almost that you have to, that I had to work through. So I said, I will show up for you 110%. I will do the work with you if you show up for yourself, and I'm all in. If you're all in, I'm all in. I'm going to make you no promises, but I know that we can do this. However it's going to look at the end, I know that you'll have an amazing transformation. And she trusted me. And so she dived right in. Upfront payment blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. So we started, and we did so much healing work around the fear of spirit, around the experiences that she'd had when she was a child. I don't know if you found this too, but I find that every single client that I coach and do healing work with, I dive deeper into myself at the same time. I learn more about me than I ever even knew, because it taps into like this different place. It's almost like the energies of me and the other person just take me to a different place that I've not been before. And so I started to remember these things that happened to me when I was a kid, and the things that I used to see, and the things that used to scare me, because we were doing the healing work around her seeing her grandmother and how scary that was for her. By the last session, she was doing mediumship readings. She'd completely opened up to evidential mediumship readings, not like, hey, yep, this is the name. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. And she's doing mediumship readings now. So through that journey, the daily practice was really important. And the daily practice is so simple. It's meditation. There's 3 specific meditations that I teach in this 6-week Awaken Your Intuition program that I run. And I have recorded a couple of them myself, and then a couple I recommended and she went and purchased them. They were cheap. But it's meditation. And then there's 4 questions that I ask myself. I'm pretty sure that I got them from Gabby Bernstein. And it's, what do I want to feel today? Who do I want to be today? What do I want to have today? And then I've changed this to, what do I feel like doing today? And those 4 things rock my world every single day. And then I go into meditation and just open myself up to whatever spirit is ready to give me in terms of guidance. And then I just take that next step and take that next step each day.
That's
I
awesome.
love about your daily practice, like Rox was saying. I mean, it's so important that everyone has their own way of diving into a daily practice. I mean, no matter what it is, but I love that you ask yourself those questions before you delve into meditation, because I think it's so easy for people to just sit back and be like, I'm going to start meditating, and they want something out of it, but they don't specifically know what they want out of it. So, I mean, you can practice meditation, but is it working for you? It may not be working, because do you even know what you want out of it? Or are you doing it because everybody does it and you just expect the world to be like a beautiful place afterwards? So I love that you do that, because I mean, I wouldn't have even thought about doing that myself. I love meditation, but to sit down and actually like think about and ask yourself those questions, like, what do I want to feel today? What do I want to do today? Like, what do I really want to do today? You know, and meditate on that. It brings a different perspective to your entire day, rather than just meditating and being like, right, what does the world have to throw at me today? And then being bleak at the end of the day because nothing has happened in your favor.
That's so true.
Happens all the time. I've seen it firsthand.
And it's so forward moving, isn't it? Like, if you think of like setting that intention, it's more like, because your soul is forward, like it's very present and it's very forward moving, and it doesn't dwell on the past. It's our minds, our ego minds, our human minds that dwell in the past and the future and take us out, do all of the things to take us out of that present moment. But our you know, our soul has this like highest, I believe that our soul has this highest path for us, and when we ask the right questions, then we can get the guidance, and not questions just and I'm not saying it's not okay to base, you know, to have a desire and work towards that, but I do place so much more importance and value on surrendering to something greater than what you desire, because, you know, your soul, your intuition, whether you want to call that God, the divine source energy, whatever you believe in, it has, if you surrender to something more, there is always something so much greater that you could never really imagine, that just begins to unfold when you open yourself up to something more.
I love that you mentioned surrender, because that's been such a theme for me lately. And I think especially when it comes to things like manifesting and following your purpose and all these new things that people are starting to really follow and do, I think like such an integral part of being able to do these things is to surrender. And I mean, I've been listening to an audiobook, and she said, like, the universe has a plan for you. And if you, let's say we're manifesting here, you put down a desire that you want to manifest, and you do not surrender to the universe, you try to control that entire process, you lose your mind when things don't go this way and it's not working out the way you thought it would. But at the end of the day, the universe could have a better plan for you, or like something different, another different avenue to get you there. So this surrendering, I feel, is such an important aspect to not only just manifesting, but I think everything in life, just releasing control, releasing expectations, and allowing the universe to guide you, to get you to wherever it may be you think you're going or are actually going. So I love that you brought up that whole surrender thing. I think it's such an important theme for people, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now. There's nothing that we can control that's going on in the world right now. So surrendering, I feel like we could actually use that as a daily routine thing as well, just to remind ourselves to surrender, let go with the flow, basically.
Definitely. Surrender's huge. I feel like surrender is everything, really.
And I feel like for me, it was such a hard concept to get my mind around, because it's hard to let go. Like, we've been taught growing up that you need to take control of your life, and only you can, which is true. Like, the decisions we make today influence our futures tomorrow, but there's also so much power in surrendering and just trusting the flow of life, and trusting that the universe has the best intentions for you.
Oh, absolutely. You know, surrender is one of those lessons. I think for me, it was the biggest lesson that I learned when I was developing the mediumship, because you really need to surrender. It's, you know, I used to have anxiety before I would get into every session because I wanted to be of service. I wanted to deliver a really accurate message. It was so important to me that I don't go in and, get misguided and follow the wrong energy. And so surrender, meditation was the thing that taught me surrender, like really being able to get into a silent meditation, which I'd never been able to do before, and get to the place where all of your thoughts almost disappear. It's like you've got to this new level, and you're breathing into the space in between your thoughts, like in between everything. It's like you move into this place of the in-between that is just so expansive. And then in that surrender was where we came up with this strategy, me and my friend, of what it would look like before I got into a session that would allow me to get into that place of complete surrender. And I would do that process 10 minutes before a session. And in that 10 minutes, there would be one pocket of information that would drop. And it came in so, like, it was so subtle. Like if I had I not been in that surrender and allowed myself to be that open to receive that pocket, I could have missed it. And that's a person's loved one. So I needed to sit there and write down and draw all of the things, and I'd receive it in a minute. It would take me 10 minutes to write out. That's how potent the drop of information was. And then I would start writing and it would move to the next piece. But it was also, I had to completely get my ego mind out of the way when I'm doing those sessions. It's almost like if I'm in a session and I feel the anxiety or I feel the ego mind or doubt coming in, through meditation, I've learned for that to be a much easier process. But I've got to move straight back into surrender. And this is not about me. This is about my dedication to spirit and me delivering this message. And surrender was the biggest thing, the biggest lesson that I learned when developing the mediumship. And then, taking that, and you can really live in that. Have you read The Surrender Experiment?
Mm-mm. I'm on my TV list right now.
It's an amazing book. It's an amazing book. He talks about surrender. Like, it's a great question that you could ask yourself in the morning. Like, what am I holding on to that I'm ready to let go of? What can I surrender that would allow me more happiness? Like, all of those, like, surrender can just create a whole, so many powerful questions that just allow you to really release and let go of everything that is not for you.
I love that you said, I feel like that's such a true thing, because I've been going through, obviously with everything that's going on in the world right now, it's creating a lot of disharmony and judgment and separation and anger and all these horrible things between families and friends. And it's just I'm finding myself in a very awkward place where thankfully I'm on the journey that I'm on, because I understand that everyone's on their own journey and no judgment and all of this, but it's so hard to surrender to what's going on and not react to everything and everyone that conflicts with you or doesn't understand where I'm coming from. It's such a hard thing. So starting your day, I think, by asking yourself, what do I need to surrender to? It's such a powerful thing, because it's been something I've not necessarily asking myself that exact question, but recognizing my triggers and things that are happening around me, being what do I need to work on today? What is it that I might be what bad habits may I be falling into, or what routines do I need to pick up again, because everything's got me everywhere with all this craziness that's going on. So I really do think that surrender could be not the answer to everyone's problems, but it really is a potent question to ask yourself every single day. What is it that I need to surrender today? Whether it's a judgment or a feeling or a behavior or whatever it may be. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
I also wanted to sorry, carry on, Ra.
Go.
What did you say? I must go. Sorry, I can't hear you. My soft. I wanted to ask you, with regard to surrender, I agree with both of everything that you guys both said. I think it's super important, and I know that you were speaking about surrendering before every session that you have with your clients, and it just got me thinking that it's also important for people to know that surrendering is 1000% going to be beneficial to you, but it also may become overwhelming. And that got me thinking, this was like a whole train of thought, is that you doing what you do and with the mediumship, like, do you ever feel, I know we grow constantly, and like we were saying earlier, you get to that new level and your mind is completely more open, and then the new level, and now you're basically coaching yourself in all your previous times, you know. And even though you are where you are now and you've been doing this for such a long time, I'm sure there can be times where mediating that spirit or those messages across to people can become overwhelming, and you having all of that energy going through you all of the time can become overwhelming. So basically, that's what my question was, is that yes, you are professional and you're meant to do this, but it can become overwhelming, right?
Oh, it can definitely become overwhelming. You know, when the pandemic first hit, I stopped doing readings for a year. I was like, on top, like in between sessions and working on my business and having the kid, like homeschooling the kids, and it was just such a huge lifestyle change. And that was a question, right? What do I need to surrender here that's going to allow me more freedom and less overwhelm? And it was the mediumship. My husband said, you know, actually, he's so beautiful. He's my best supporter. He said to me, you know, you're too young he's very open to personal development, but he's kind of person that just, he grows and he talks himself through his own growth, if that makes sense. Like, he's not into going and seeing a life coach, and I'm totally okay with that. He didn't know what I was doing for years. I was just in this back room working with people. He had no idea that I was doing past life healings. I didn't know how to tell him. He's like, we come from this like Catholic religion, and I'm like, how am I even gonna? But it was so real for me. Like, it was so real that I couldn't, like, my soul, everything was saying yes. That I was not ready to. There was no way in I was about to say there's no way in hell. There's no way. There's no way that I could have let that go or given that up for anyone. So I'm so happy that he's just so accepting of everything that's happening. But he said to me, you know, you're too young to talk to dead people. You're too young to talk to dead people. You're too young to be doing this. It's like really hard. Like, it's really emotional, because I might come out and tell him stories like, oh, there's some, you know, really, I'd come out sometimes crying. Like, I'd be connecting to people's babies that they've lost, and oh, you know, sometimes it's really hard on the heart. I just got really emotional. But that made me laugh when he said to me, you're too young to be talking to dead people. And I thought, yeah, that feels good right now. So I'm totally surrendering that for a year. It does get overwhelming, and without a spiritual practice, I probably wouldn't be. And without the modalities that I use, there's another modality that I use, which is called Psych K, which is more amazing than any modality I've ever used before. And that gets me through everything. That gets me through, if things are hard, I can process my emotions really quickly. If I feel overwhelmed, I'm just processing really, really quickly using that modality. It's different to anything I've ever used before.
I'm like, tell us more about modality.
I could see Roxy's face. I was going, both of us are like, tell us more about that.
So this is, do you know, have you heard of Bruce Lipton? He wrote the book Biology of Belief. And he talks about, anyway, I had heard of him, but I didn't know much of his work. So he raves about Psych K, and the creator of Psych K, I really hope I get this right, I'm sure it's Rob Williams. But I had been told, so this is another part that I hadn't talked to you about, but my friend, who ended up being my best friend for a couple of years, who helped me through the mediumship, really helped me unpack the mediumship and develop, passed away last year in July. After she had a 10-month-old baby, and she passed away. But before she passed away, so all the mediumship for me unlocked after my dad passed, and that was a big part of it. My dad passed away, and then I had this amazing mentor and coach and best friend for 2 years, and then she passed away. But what's amazing about that, there's nothing, I mean, there's so much that's not amazing about that, but what is amazing about that is that she came to me the day that she passed, and I had the most spiritual experience. The hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life was a week later, was to do a mediumship reading for her partner who had just lost. That was just, anyway, that was a whole nother world. But they introduced me to Psych K. They were telling me about it. You know, you can hardwire your subconscious beliefs, hardwire your subconscious programming. And I was like, listening, yeah, okay. All right, I'll try it out. Went to the first course. What the hell is this? This is insane. Like, how did I not know about this? So it's pretty much, the way they define it is a spiritual practice with psychological benefits. That's the best way that I can, but you do these, I'm actually not allowed to talk. I've had to sign a contract I'm not allowed to talk too much about what actually happens, but I can tell you some of the results that people have had in the processes. So personally, after the first training I went to, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to set myself, I'd never really set a money goal because we've been very lucky, like we're okay financially, we've always been really okay. So I never felt like I needed to do that. So, but I said, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to set a 20K goal for, I think I gave myself 2.5 months. If I get to 20, and I thought, that's not going to happen. 2.5, like I just started my own business and like it didn't feel like it was a real possibility. If I hit 20K in that 2.5 months, I'm going to sign up to the advanced program, because that is like, I could say to because my husband's had enough of me going, this new modality that I want to So I said, and so I told him as well, it's like almost accountability as well. I said, I'm going to, this is what I'm going to do. So I set the goal, I set the intention, I felt it, I did my, I felt it, I sat with it, I saw it, I imagined what I would hear if I had reached that goal. And every morning in my meditation, I surrendered to spirit, soul, guide me, show me what I need to do today. And I just happened to watch this lady's 5-day challenge. Like it kind of just felt like something I needed to watch. And I remember going through this challenge and thinking, I can do that. Like that looks like fun. Like I'm going to do that. And so I decided to run this 5-day challenge. Little did I know how much work was involved. Me thinking it's going to be really easy, and it wasn't. By the end of day 5, I look like death. Like if I rewatch the videos, day 5, I look like a truck had hit me. But it was called the awaken your intuition. No, trust your intuition challenge. And the results that people were getting were just, the feedback I was getting was amazing. And I put out this program. I hadn't even written the program. No idea what I was going to do in this program. I offered a 6-week program. At the end of it, by the 2.5 months, I'd hit 20K. And it was easy. And I was using the Psych K. So every time I'd have resistance, I'd use the process. Every time I'd feel limiting beliefs come up, I'd rewrite the story. So I was doing the work. I'm always doing the work. I never say it just happened. Like I'm doing the work. I'm always doing the inner work. Everything's an inside job at the end of the day, and I know that. And so that happened, and that made me real. You can't not believe in something after that happens, especially if it was from nowhere. It felt like it was money was coming from nowhere. Clients were coming from nowhere. It felt like it was nowhere. It wasn't like I was just showing up differently. My energy was clear. I was like a clear vessel, listening to spirit, taking the action. And so that happened. But what else did I want to tell you about that? So that's what the Psych K is. It's literally reprogramming, rewiring your subconscious mind. So then I had a client come to me who had very physical, like a physically blocked throat chakra. But it wasn't like, she didn't even know what chakras were, I don't think, at that point. And she just said, I've had it for 2.5 months. It's this really prickly, hard, warm feeling. And I've gone to the doctor and they can't see anything. They don't know what it is, don't know how to get rid of it. And I thought, oh, okay, well, let's try and see what happens. I'm not even kidding. After our session, I did 3 Psych K balances at the end of this 45-minute session. By the end of the session, it was gone, completely gone. She had the sensation was not there anymore. The lump, she couldn't swallow. It was all energetic because they're empaths. We're empaths. We're really highly sensitive. We feel something so physically, but it might not even actually, it's so energetically and emotionally there. And it was the emotion. It was about her not speaking her truth, like the standard throat chakra blocks. And it wasn't like I had come to that conclusion or anything. It was the questions I was asking her, the balances that we did, and she was just unpacking where it all had come from. And within 45 minutes, a physical block that she'd had, a lump, spiky lump in her throat, was completely gone. And I thought, wow, I wonder if this is going to actually go. We've been coaching together now for 5 months. It's only ever come back twice for less than 24 hours when she wasn't speaking her truth. So this modality is so powerful, and it's minutes, like things get processed in minutes. I've done processes where people are in a session and we're processing something that is like really deep, like a childhood trauma, or I've done one with a past life trauma before, but it's mainly just like a childhood trauma or something that they had not connected with, but it's come about from the symptom, the physical symptom or the emotional thing that they're experiencing. And they have felt their loved ones touch their arm like they did when they were alive. Like I've had crazy, and I guess it's probably a combination that I'm so open as well with the mediumship and that, but I've never seen anything like Psych K. It's like the speed, the effectiveness, the longevity of it, and people feel it. And maybe it's because I'm working with empaths, but I have done it, like I've used it with my kids. Like my kids' physical, my son has itchy skin conditions. I'll get in bed with him. He'll be crying from the itch at night. I'll get in bed. I'll go into surrogation, use the surrogation process, and I will do the processing for him, and he's asleep within 2 minutes. No more itch, sleeps for the rest of the night. So I've never seen anything like it before. It's amazing.
That's incredible. I'm like, if obviously you said you can't speak too much about the intricacies of this modality, but if someone was interested to learn more or to experience it, would they have to come to you? Or obviously there's a way, like if people want to experience it in terms of having their own healing, coming to you would be the option. But like someone like me, this sounds very intriguing, where would I go to find out more about this modality?
Oh, I'll send you the link later, but you can just Google Psych K, and I'll send you the facilitator who I learned from. But yeah, you can just Google it. There's heaps of trainers around the world. Actually, I'm pretty sure I did hear a lady, because there's a page in South Africa. Oh, there's facilitators and trainers everywhere. Okay. Yeah, but they all kind of have their own niches and know who they work with. Obviously, find someone that resonates with you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That would be like my only advice, because it can be really detrimental to work with someone that is like you don't resonate with. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Make sure that they resonate with you. But yeah, you can just Google Psych K. It's PSYCH-K.
Just a K.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will definitely do some research on that. Yeah. Sounds super interesting. I know I was listening to a podcast the other day and they're talking about emotion code. I know that I can't remember who wrote the book, but there's some stuff that just like really tugs at my heartstrings, because I think especially when it comes to traumas and limiting beliefs and fears and ego and all that jazz, I think there's so many different modalities that can be used in order to help people. It's just like, how do I choose which one? But we'll get there. That's the journey. So
Absolutely.
I love hearing about different modalities. So I'm definitely going to look into this one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Amazing.
I think it's important that you guys that have life coaching businesses or in the field of work that you guys are in, like you say, not just have one niche. Yes, it's great to have one niche. No one's saying there's anything wrong with that, but you literally have to trial and error all of these types of modalities that you were saying, Rox, like speaks to you, because at the end of the day, like if we're going on energy and that's what we're thinking and talking about, you have to be open and, like you say, surrender to those feelings. There's a reason that a specific modality is tugging on your heartstrings, or there's a specific modality that you can't stop thinking about, or something comes up in a podcast. Like that's the way you guys are meant to help and heal people, and those are the messages that you're getting. So it doesn't matter how many modalities you have, both of you just keep on them, keep them going. I'm like, keep on them going. My English is so great.
I totally agree. Because, you might have a look at it and it might not be your thing. Like you said, if emotion code, there are so many different ways. There's so many modalities to heal and change subconscious beliefs. And it's a big part of your, like the success that you have with the modality is how much you believe on it. So if there's something tugging on your heartstrings, like you said, B, then it's aligned with you. And that's probably your next step. And, like when I think about NLP, I thought, oh my God, there's nothing I'm going to find better than this. Then matrix therapies, oh my gosh, there's nothing I'm going to find that's better than this. And, you eventually get to this place where you can use it all, but you fall in love with different elements of the different modalities, and you find your way through experiences that you have personally and with your clients, so that you can mold it and you start to learn which combinations you can use when someone presents you with this, or when someone presents you with that. And so it does become fun. And no, it's probably not going to be my last modality, but don't tell my husband, okay?
I was actually going to say, it was so funny when you brought that up, because I'm also always next thing, learning about this, learning about that. And my hubby's like, geez, I could take a break and just like stick to one thing and finish it off. But it's so true what you said. I think like learning about so many different things is actually, for me, I love it, because I might not resonate with the entire thing that I've learned, but there's a little part within that like tugs at my heartstrings, and I'll go and learn a bit more about that. And in learning about that, something else interesting pops up. And it's just the way that you incorporate things into your practice, the way that you put your processes and your tools and your techniques together to help your client. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes you unique. That's what like creates your offering and attracts the clients that are attracted to what you do, because you're doing it in your own way. You're putting together something that's not necessarily out of a book and onto the page for your client, but you've taken things from a million different books and a million different podcasts and a million different courses and a million different experiences and a million different conversations you've had with people and a million different experiences you've had with clients, putting it all together into not one specific thing, but into a toolbox of modalities and knowledge and wisdom that you use with your clients. So I love that you brought that up. That's incredible.
This has been so good.
Yeah.
I feel like I could keep talking to you for hours.
I know, that's the problem. I'm always like, we don't want to have to end it now, but it's been an hour. So, but it has been truly incredible speaking to you. I think let's end off with our rapid fire questions. So we're just going to shoot a question at you. You can answer whatever comes to you first. The first question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I can tell you the best thing it's everything is made up of energy. That just blew my world.
I love that.
I love it. Some answers are so short and sweet. It's like the best. Straight up. Sometimes it's so difficult to think of an answer, but when it pops into your head, like it's the best thing.
Then on the opposite end, what is the worst piece of advice that you've ever received?
The worst piece of advice I'd ever received. I'm so not good on the spot with things like these. I can't think. It's probably got something to do with like just get over. I know this sounds funny, but just get over it.
Mhm.
You know, that like just discard your feelings and get over it. And then like taking that on as a belief system and completely numbing for years and years of my life because I was just getting over it, you know.
I think that was my answer when we asked each other, Habi.
I was just going to say someone answered that recently, but I didn't even know who. That's amazing.
Awesome. And then the last question is, if you could create one rule that everyone in the world had to live by or follow, what would it be?
Oh, it would be follow your heart, definitely.
I love that.
That's so cute. I also love it when we get answers that we've never gotten them before, because I promise you, it's actually crazy how many people think of the same things, no matter what their line of work is. Like, it's so nice to hear the answers, but that was a good one.
That's so cool. I love those questions. I didn't hear that before. Like I had no idea that you were going to ask me rapid fire questions, but I like that. You put me on the spot.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just like a little way to get to know people better. But like, I feel like because we interview people in not similar industries, but on a similar journey, like health and harmony, obviously, the answers are always so incredible. So it's such a cute way to end off every podcast. But thank you so much for your time. It's been incredible getting to know you and hearing your story and learning some new things. I'm definitely going to be researching going forward. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, it was so awesome to chat to you. Thank you for being on our podcast. No, please, I'm like, it's always me, always interrupting someone, but I feel like there's such a lag when you do meetings on Zoom. It's so difficult. I'm like, you have to wait until someone starts talking, but then you all start talking at the same time, and I'm like, shoot, it was me again. But thank you for our podcast, really.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so super grateful.
Thank you.